Welcome to this edition of SBJ Executive Insight. For this conversation, we're actually doing this taping from our SBJ Thought Leaders Retreat here at the beautiful Monarch Beach Resort in Dana Point, California. And my guest today is John Roberson, CEO and Chief Cheerleader of Advent. Welcome, John.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so glad you can be here. So last week, Abe Madcore, our publisher, and I were at dinner, and we were with a lot of different team executives from all across North America. The last table conversation was around where folks see potential growth in team revenue. And across the board, the conversation was real estate, mixed use, and venues. So good news for you in terms of Advent's business. But obviously we're seeing so much excitement, energy, and investment around venues build and design that have just been recently completed and are on the docket for the next 5, even 10 years. So from your vantage point, talking to team ownership and leadership, what are some of the trends that you are seeing and hearing about in terms of investing in technology as part of venue design and build?
Well, first of all, I think that conversation is very appropriate and very timely. I think the Jones family and the Dallas Cowboys have proven that you can build a destination around the theme of the team. You can, just like you would theme, maybe Mediterranean in terms of architecture or vibe or style, you can theme a destination to be around the history, the heritage, and the lore of a team. So if you can play the cards that you have in your hand of, okay, we need a practice facility, or we need a performance and playing venue, and we need these other services, we also can draw in restaurants, retail, we can draw in corporate tenants. That's a really good model, and it creates a sense of a destination. It creates a sense of place that people want to come and visit, and becomes TripAdvisor reviewed. People start talking about it on social media. So what we find in those situations is that technology allows fans to go deeper in the story. When we go to make the decision to go to an event, to go to a destination, we're so used to having that customizable digital content that we're expecting it at point of purchase as well. So technology can offer those guests a personalized experience, a customized experience.
Right, and I think what's interesting to me is, having seen some of the great videos and work that you've done, is that it's personalization at scale.
Yes.
So that each individual comes to one of these venues and they can touch their hero, they can experience things in a way that matters to them.
That's right.
I had a very specific question about the design for the Fanatics. When I was, doing my homework, I noticed that one of the comments was around knitting together all of those different brands.
Yes.
Because obviously Michael's been on a little bit of a buying spree in
Yes.
the past 5
Right.
years or so. So I'm so interested to hear how you worked with that team to knit together those brands.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that Michael wants to flip a switch, because if they're coming in to talk about the collectible business, boom, it looks like that. But can you tell us a little bit about that listening, that deep listening that I know was so important to you, that happened around that Fanatics conversation?
So with Fanatics, it's this portfolio of brands. If you really think about Michael Rubin's business, having had a father who was in the apparel business, when you think about those jerseys, for example, we don't think about it this way, but in reality, they're the same product. The thing that is changing is the flavor. The thing that's changing is the expression of that brand. Technology allows the same thing. It allows us to say, okay, here is an output, a screen, a manifestation of a brand, but we can change that on the fly. Technology is super scalable. You talk about kind of scaling at mass. Big data researchers call that mass customization. It's really important. I think what Michael Rubin is saying is we want to reserve the right to express the brand that is most recently acquired, or maybe even he's doing it so that he can attract the brand he's trying to acquire.
Right.
By that Norman Vincent Peale philosophy of, I see you.
Yeah.
What you say is important.
Yeah. That's tremendous. And I think something that you mentioned when we were chatting in advance of this conversation is it's also got to work. And so when you think about the complexity of doing things in that multimodal manner, how do you ensure that the technology is able to be iterated upon and really functional?
Technology has to be proven. It has to be stable. Because if it's not, and we've seen this in some of the venues, you've read the headlines, you all have written about the headlines, frictionless fan experiences. But if those facial recognition systems are glitched, then we'll write about the lines they cause or the frustrations they cause. So when we deploy technology, it has to be bulletproof. It also has to be intelligent, just like we're seeing with AI. It has to take back in feedback to know how to improve itself. We're huge believers in that. It's rooted in our origins with design thinking. We have to prototype. We often are letting our clients see and engage with that prototype before it's deployed. We'll iterate time and time again on it to make sure that it works, and then we make it go live. Behind the scenes, that experience management system that we've created, we're constantly refining that. So there's constant programming technology adaptation that's going on there. But we all know there's nothing worse than a black screen. There's nothing worse than a glitchy screen. So it's assumed that technology will work, right? And again, from our own frustration, we'll yell at or curse at our cell phones or at the smart TV at home when it doesn't work. Fans, audiences have a very short threshold for technology has to work.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about some of the extraordinary benefits of technology and digitization, and shift gears to another project that I was just really interested to learn more about and made me really want to visit, was the remarkable design and build of the International Tennis Hall of Fame. So different in feel from the Fanatics headquarters, right? I just, like looking at the two, I was like, gosh, it's fascinating to see that you could make two such different projects come to life like that. But tell me a little bit about some of the goals that organization had going in and the ideation process to make all of those activations come to life.
The organization of the International Tennis Hall of Fame had a rich history. They had curated so many wonderful mementos, but they had not advanced their brand, their stories into this technological age that we're in. And there was pressure on the business because to be enshrined in the International Tennis Hall of Fame, you have to be retired from the sport for 5 years. So if we just kind of give some thought to that for just a second, we'll realize that names like Federer, Nadal, Williams are imminently about to be enshrined in the International Tennis Hall of Fame and will bring with them their own sense of fandom, their own sense of excitement. People will want to visit. So it was time. It was time to kind of refresh that brand. We had to be courteous to the architecture that was timeless. It was historic. But we also had to use technology that would bring younger fans into the sport. Tennis, with the concept of Breakpoint, the documentary that ran on Netflix, with the concept of Alcaraz and Coco Gauff and some of these younger personalities, they're so captivating to watch. Younger viewers are being drawn into the sport, and so we have to realize that that's a sport that every woman and every man can play. So we had to be true to the accessibility of that and not make it kind of behind glass and reserved. So we used technology tricks that would really be appropriate for younger generations.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that, and I think there's so much focus on grabbing Generation Alpha and making them those, casual fans into the future avid fans, and that's really what I so admired about that installation, is that it allowed that young person to reach out and touch their hero and hear that acceptance speech. Just by picking up a racket, they could put themselves right in it. Was just so thrilling, and I can see that memory is what's going to make them that even more dedicated fan.
One of the things that's really fascinating is to hear within tennis, in that deep listening exercise, what athletes inspired other athletes. And so one of the board members of the International Tennis Hall of Fame and a member of a Hall of Famer herself, Gigi Hernandez, she spoke about how she loved this chandelier that we created. Looks like it's of porcelain tennis balls. And as you hover your phone, augmented reality brings you the story, the connections of who inspired Gigi, who inspired Andrea Agassi, because that's really what sports is all about. There are these heroes that inspire us to greatness. But just like you were saying in some of your earlier questions, that allows the guest to choose their adventure.
That's right.
That allows that, younger generation to be able to say, I want to explore this, and maybe just the organic nature of the experience allows some excitement on their part, and it's not linear. But it really is captivating. And you mentioned it earlier, when someone is enshrined or inducted into the International Tennis Hall of Fame, they give a once-in-a-lifetime speech. Think of it almost like a self-reflecting obituary, if you will, or epitaph. They're crazy powerful. They're beautifully dramatic. They're rich with a spirit of motivation and inspiration. We have to make those modularly accessible for the fan who wants to hear those voices of the past.
Well, we have time just for one more question, and this one's a little bit more practical after that inspirational, all thinking about mythic heroes now. But obviously, you have clients who want the world. And what is your advice for folks that are thinking about an investment, and maybe a couple of cautionary tales or words of wisdom that you could share?
We often say to clients that really you can create an experience on almost any budget. And we have clients who create 5-figure experiences and who create 8, 9-figure experiences. I think the key thing, though, is to remember, for example, if you're building a new stadium or an arena, you're going to spend 15% of that budget on the HVAC system, the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. And no fan will talk about those elements unless they don't work.
And then they'll talk a lot.
And they'll talk a lot. But you should spend, what, 2, 5, 10% of that total budget on making that experience more elevated. We're hearing that younger generation want to travel 50 minutes, 50 miles, a couple of hours, sometimes by air travel, to get that once-in-a-lifetime experience. So the stakes are really high with arenas, stadiums, and mixed-use districts. We've got to pull them in. So first, budget an appropriate amount of your budget. Don't leave it for the afterthought. We all like cakes and cupcakes that are iced and decorated. An unfinished cake is not so great. And so sometimes in the past we thought, well, I'll just leave that and see how much money's left. We also know and have proven models that sponsors will fund those fan experiences to be a part of that. So that's found money. But then lastly, just understand that just like weights and measures and variables in an equation, you can amplify one, diminish another, to create this really interesting topology that it becomes a fan experience, that becomes an audience journey. We don't ever need everything to be at an 11.
Right.
But there needs to be something within the total journey that is an 11. And that's what we just say to our clients is that, yes, you want everything. Let's figure out a way to get at least some of the qualities that you want. What we like to encourage them, though, is to think about what is the outcome they're looking for. We talk about what do you want the audience to think, feel, remember, and do. Think, feel, remember, and do. Let's look at that outcome and not think so much about some novel technology that we've seen in another location. What is the outcome we're trying to go for? And let's all agree on the path to get there.
Yeah. Well, that is wonderful advice, I think, for life, right? Go with the things that matter the most for your brand and your fans, and do it on the right budget.
That's right.
Thank you so much, John, for a wonderful conversation. Thank you also to our audience for listening to this edition of SBJ Executive Insight with my guest, John Roberson from Advent.